evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our, what has been spoiler reviews. We didn't want to start off, but we just, you start talking about it, but it happens. But this is our weekly The Stand review show. So full, like we said, spoilers. And this is episode 8 called The Stand. This is the episode 8 stand of The Stand.
Where they're going to stand.
They
make a stand.
Kneel in the pool. Your wording is... They should be called kneeling. Or damp.
They're making a stand.
Yes. The previous episode, we've talked about this in the past. She's read the book a bazillion times. Super nerd when it comes to Stephen King. I'm only coming from the 94 edition. And I know a little bit of the books. We are past the point that I know in the books. And we're going to have spoiler conversations. So I'm coming to it as engaging in the story that's being told in front of me. And from the previous episode with with Ray, Glenn, and Larry getting picked up, then
outside of Vegas
and taken into Vegas and shown the world, and Nadine showing up pregnant and stuff,
looking like a zombie bride,
the bridezilla. So with that, this episode has essentially 2 parts. Well, there's 3 parts. There's the trial of the 3 of them, where Glenn spends the whole time pointing out that the only reason Flag has any power is because of fear.
Right.
He's ruling out of fear, and the fear is what gives him power.
Yep. And kind of breaking down the fact that that it's falling apart. Right.
Right. And that's important for later, but it was kind of an interesting way of if you sow doubt, if you make a god bleed, he's no longer God.
Right.
And so if you put a little bit of doubt in some people's head, even if you have to sacrifice yourself in the process, you're doing it for the greater good. Greater good. But that was what the whole trial was about.
Yep.
It wasn't anything about there was a lot of show and everything, and Lloyd ends up out of fear of Flag shooting Glenn.
Yeah. And the chick who was the judge, her character doesn't exist in the book, so I have no idea what her name is.
They're calling her Rat Woman.
Rat Woman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. She is in the book as a guy.
Oh, okay.
They call him Ratty. I think in the 94 series, he was a big black guy. With kind of pirate-esque.
Okay. She's kind of pirate-esque, but she's like the show director. She's the showrunner of the propaganda machine that is going on in Vegas, and she was edging Lloyd on to kind of stop Glenn from doing what he was doing.
Right.
And I think Glenn knew as soon as they started the trial that he wasn't going to make it out of it. Well,
I mean, none of them expected to make it out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
They're there. So, if you're gonna make your death mean something, what, it pulls out all the stops, right? Just say what you want, do what you want.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point in time.
You can die here, or you can die somewhere else in a day or an hour.
Right. And he makes a stand there to sow that level of doubt throughout everybody, and it was really kind of cool. Out of that scene, we get a scene where Nadine comes to kind of apologize, I guess, to Larry. Larry's handcuffed to the kitchen.
Yeah.
It was a weird room because they showed him in the cells earlier, and then the next scene, Ray and Larry
I'm not really sure why they didn't just put them back in the cells.
I don't know, but whatever, we'll let it go. But she comes and tries to apologize, and Larry essentially turns the mirror onto Nadine.
Yeah.
If physically does it, but more of making Nadine see what has happened to her.
Right. And we saw in the last episode that she was looking into a window or something, and she saw herself as she was before.
Right.
And then the camera kind of turns, and she's obviously not like she was before.
Right,
so
right.
that kind of makes sense to make her see that she's not what she thinks she is.
She's
anymore.
not that pretty young thing that is going to be whatever.
Well, yeah, look what he did to you.
Yeah. Sucking the life out of you
Right.
with his prince.
Right.
And she goes into labor, and they have the whole labor scene going on in the suite. And with the previous scene in the courtroom, the seeds of doubt have been laid in Nadine's head.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as they go through labor, and she's like, it's not right.
Yeah, because it's trying to
It's like trying to burst out of her stomach instead of coming out the way it's supposed to come out. That is not a C-section, by the way. But the whole time, Flag's standing there in his smoking jacket and a cigar, and his glass of milk. Okay, there's something about evil bad guys just standing there with glasses of milk and just sitting there sipping. Homelander does it in The Boys. It's just
apparently
it's creepy, but
being a bad guy is hard on your bones, and so you need to drink milk to replace your calcium. I don't know.
The further they go into, she goes into labor, the more she starts questioning everything.
Right.
And she finally gets up off the table and goes over and stands by the window, and Flag kind of tries to manipulate her some more.
Yeah.
You're going to be my queen. You're going to be the mother of my prince.
Yeah.
And
except she knows that that's not really what's going to happen.
And her necklace lights up, and she kind of starts to change. She makes a point of changing her mind. It's almost like she's resigned to the fact. That's what it ends up being. But it's almost like she's giving in to him. She's like,
yeah,
right,
well,
I'm going to give in to you. And
the point of the necklaces is kind of, I guess maybe they go into it a little bit more in the book, but the necklace is his talisman. It kind of controls those people.
That's how I saw it. They didn't really explain it. Like a lot of stuff with this show, they didn't explain it. They expected the audience to just kind of catch up on its own.
Yeah.
And that was one of the times where I'm like, oh, okay, this is his way of controlling her, or at least trying to.
Right.
But she takes it off, smashes the window, jumps out the window, Swan dives into the pool way down there.
Into the empty pool.
Into the empty pool.
Yeah.
Flag, screams out, and then his first thing to Lloyd is cancel the nursery.
Random.
Yeah, it was just a random. It was. I liked the line.
Yeah.
But it was very everything he's done to this point is to get this child.
Yeah.
And
he does lose it.
Oh yeah, he screams out and stuff like that, but he recovers very quickly.
Crying, actually. Yeah. But then, yeah. And
because he has no soul.
Yeah, maybe.
That's kind of obviously he's upset because all of his plans have been ruined. Okay, well that plan's done. On to plan D or whatever, kind of thing.
Yeah. So in the book, Nadine dies before the three from Boulder even get there, and she does not kill herself. She makes Flag so mad that he throws her off the roof, mentally pushes her off the roof.
Right.
And then he's like, oh crap.
Right.
What I just did.
I kind of like this version more than that version.
Yeah.
Because it's her choosing.
Taking responsibility for.
Right.
Yeah,
which is, again, sowing seeds of doubt.
Right.
In everyone around her, including Lloyd and Ratwoman and the spectators who see her fall.
Yep.
And because they all know that she is she's the ornated, and yeah, that's the word.
Ordained.
She's ornamental.
She was. They both serve. They get to the same place.
Yeah.
They, him throwing her off the roof. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's losing it!" Right?
Yeah.
And her breaking out of his will and jumping, they both serve the same purpose. It just gives her character some responsibility.
And I like that. I like that because the whole time I've felt for Nadine because she's been manipulated since she was a young child, and we've talked about it multiple times on this show where she wants to do the right thing. She's drawn to the light, to use a Star Wars term, but she's pulled towards the dark, and that's too much for her to break free of it.
Yeah, unlike a lot of people who are in New Las Vegas, and even Harold, Harold is probably was a little more like Nadine. Like he could have gone either way.
Right.
But and he was kind of a victim of the things that happened to him. And she was too, but she was a victim of Flag happening to her. Right. But yeah, you kind of, like everybody else, you kind of feel like they
are who they are. And they don't.
Yeah, they weren't great people to begin with. And she is actually a really good, she's a kindergarten teacher or whatever, right? She's a really good person.
Right.
But then there's this thing pulling at her and pulling at her and pulling at her.
Yep. And you pull at that string, that thread long enough, you're going to break. One way or the other, you know. They bring her head with the collapsed face and on a tray into Larry's kitchen. And they finally come to get him for his sentencing from the trial or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's smiling, and they're like, "Why are you smiling?" He's like, "This is an example how the wheels are coming off.
Yep.
Here's the example."
Yeah.
And
this wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. And so they take him out and they handcuff him to the pool, and they put this big show on, and they flag the pin. They make a point of showing the smiley face pin, and it's starting to crack and crumble and not have
showing a little age,
showing its age, and not smiling as big as it has in the past. And that's kind of like a visual gauge of his power.
Yeah.
A scene earlier when the questioning had started kind of happening, he was floating in the penthouse, and when the questioning started happening, he kind of fell back to the ground, and so it was kind of a visual representation of things going bad. And then here it is with the smiley face pen or whatever.
Yep.
They turn the water on. They do this big show. They're handcuffed to the pool, and Larry is at peace, and Ray is not doing well.
Yeah.
But Ray, the whole time, Larry's at peace, and he Lloyd comes down and says, "Do you have any final words?" And Larry starts just, "I will fear no evil. I will fear no evil. I will." And Lloyd starts beating him, and then Lloyd gets to the point where he can't. He's recognizing now that Lloyd was recognizing this is wrong. And he was already starting to question things as it was, and he was doing stuff for Flag out of fear. But when the number 2 guide starts to question it, then people in the crowd start saying, "I will fear no evil, I will feel no evil," and Flag loses it and start telling people to attack them and go after them and whatever. And then so this is the point I want to get to. What was the storm?
So in the book, basically this is what happens. They're not in a pool, they're actually outside, and the finger of God, that is the thing. It's called the finger of God, and you just assume it's like, right? And
I'm done with you.
And it
I smush you, bug.
There's a nuclear warhead sitting there, that Trashy's brought, and so it just boom. So this was a little more dramatic, I guess.
I actually liked it because we talked about it a couple episodes ago that the end is kind of anticlimactic, and this actually I felt was not that. I felt it was actually pretty climactic.
Yeah.
It was a visual representation of evil getting crushed
Right. Well, and so again,
with
if
lightning,
it's
by the way.
right, which is, in the biblical sense, has always been kind of God's thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The lightning, and even in the, Thor's the god of lightning.
Sparkle fingers.
Sparkle fingers. But I mean, if you think about it, if they had done it the other way with just boom, everybody dies. I mean, that is very anticlimactic, right?
Right,
This
right.
way, they had these balls of lightning. They had people running, like Julia Lowry's running, and and you get
Yeah.
to watch her.
Evaporate, which
yeah.
was very satisfying.
Yeah,
and
right.
I think for me, that's why I like this episode so much, is that I get that satisfaction of all of them who were quote unquote evil, quote unquote. We'll keep using this
Quote
as
unquote.
I felt vindicated for keeping my time with this show.
Yeah.
To actually, the bad guys got it. Like
Right.
the evil
But
bad
you
guys
got
got it.
It was individually instead of just boom.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well,
Lloyd getting decapitated and
Yeah.
everybody getting like, and then the rush of people like not helping each other, like the rush of people
Yeah.
trying to get out of
Yeah.
the casino
Yeah.
and stuff. And I just felt like that was very satisfying. It's weird to say that I was satisfied watching people die in Las Vegas because we love Las Vegas, but it was very
it
satisfying.
was new Las Vegas.
It's
so
new Las Vegas, and that casino doesn't exist.
doesn't
like that.
exist.
Did you notice that they had the Cosmopolitan sign across the street covered up?
The flamingo O'Hara's
As you were, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a scene when they were doing the birthing scene, the labor scene. You look over a flag's shoulder and you could see the Cosmopolitan across the street, except there's banners flying off the edge of it like sheets, like they just like CGI'd some in there because they couldn't get the okay for it or whatever. It was weird.
In case you haven't been to Vegas and you're wondering where that casino is actually Planet Hollywood.
It's actually Planet Hollywood, and that suite actually exists with the Cosmo and the
and
Bellagio.
that view
in the back.
exists.
Yeah, it actually
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
I would love to rent that room, but it's like $30,000 a night. Or they give it to you for free if you bet a lot of money. The only other thing that I wanted to... so I was really satisfied with that. Flag kind of cowering as the lightning was shooting everybody was kind of interesting that he really... It was the bully, when it came down to it, the thing that was... He was kind of saying, like, Mom didn't let me do what I wanted to do. Is kind of what that like his kind of speech that he was saying there, and he kind of
I didn't understand.
I didn't understand it either, but that's how I took it. Like, you didn't let me do what I wanted to do, and I was just like, but he just stood there defiantly after cowering in the corner, and then it gets lit up, and it takes multiple shots, but because he's
and I mean, I guess they kind of in the book, they make it like, did Flag explode in the...
he doesn't he didn't explode,
right.
He just disappeared,
right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens in the book, like right before the nuclear bomb goes off. They say he says something like, for anyone who cared to look, Flag disappeared, and then the bomb went off, right? So you're like, did he what happened?
Yeah.
And so I was noticing the kind of the same thing here, in that he just disappeared. He didn't like
evaporate like everybody else did. The squish, there was blood,
dusting,
like blooding,
whatever
you wanna call it. The bomb goes off. Trashy trash can man Ezra Miller is that character, like having, like, that could have been anybody other than Ezra Miller in that character. Him driving into the casino was a funny scene. I thought it was really well done. But again, it could have been anybody. If you're going to spend... Ezra filmed this over 2 days. Like, it's really what it felt like. Like, he was in the busy doing something, or they edited him out. I don't think they did that. It just felt like the way they tell the story, he was there for 2 days and this
Right.
is how they
Well,
did it. And,
yeah.
and whatever, he was the MacGuffin getter, so that's fine. But as they were telling this story this way, I just think he's wasted, and that was my only
Yeah.
kind of
It was
thing.
very weird that they.
But with the bomb going off, they show Stu in the canyon, watching it, like having the explosion go over him, and then they show Boulder, and you could see the light and stuff like going off. And Joe tells Franny that he's gone.
Yeah.
And Franny starts asking him, like, can you see Stu? Can you see
Yeah.
Stu? And stuff like that. And then she goes into labor and roll to black. Like,
You forgot Tom Cullen.
oh, Tom Cullen, yeah, shows up
Yeah.
in the canyon, and Kojak kind of gets him.
Yeah.
So he was going off to
Yep.
get Stu.
Yep.
But this is we were doing a rewatch of Game of Thrones. This is very Game of Thrones-esque, where the big finale is the episode before the end.
Right. Well, and this is how the book goes.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to have, I think, because the book is this way too, the way you're telling the story is you have to have that prologue
Right.
to kind of...
Epilogue.
Right. You have to have this epilogue, prologues before, epilogues
Right.
after. You have to have this epilogue to kind of wrap a bow up on the story. Because if you left it at here, you'd be like, so does Stu and Tom Cullen get back? And what happens with Franny? And
Right.
who's the what happens with the people in the town and
Right.
stuff. So that's what the next episode's going to be. And I know a lot of people who don't know the story are going to be upset with this kind of anticlimactic story ender kind of thing.
There's a lot to. I mean, just because the Dark Man is gone, there's still, only so many people left in the world,
Right.
and they don't really go into it. I don't think they brought it up at all. If they did, it was in passing. That they don't even know if the babies that are being born are going to live. Because there
Right.
was this giant plague. So, are they going to be born and just die immediately, and then the world just dies out in the next
Right.
30, 50 years?
Right.
So, I mean, that in the book is really like, you still need to know if the babies are going to live. And,
Right.
And so
They haven't really dealt with that at all. Like, it hasn't even been a question. And one of the things that in my head too is looking at this from like a Quiet Place conversation. Quiet Place is about what happens after the aliens are there. You're living with what the aliens have done. But Quiet Place 2 is supposed to be what the rest of the world is dealing with.
Right.
And so it'd be really interesting if they came back and did a 4-episode series of how Europe dealt with the plague, and how India dealt with the plague, and how China dealt with the plague, and how Africa dealt. Like, it'd be interesting to come back and explore that storytelling process.
it would, but if you think about it, the people there have no way of
Right.
knowing.
There's
They
no
don't-
real communication per se right now. They just got the power back in Boulder
Right.
before everything happened, before they all left.
So you're telling a story that the people in the original story don't really have any way of even.
No, but
knowing
it would
about.
be very interesting to see, like, they're in Boulder and a group of Spaniards show up who,
Yeah.
have figured out, like, we can do... The satellites are still working. We figured out how to get telecommunications back up.
So the
Like,
original series, I don't remember that they touch on this at all with Flag. In the original miniseries, he appears after the explosion. Like, I think it's like the very last scene
Right.
on an island in like some island of people who have never seen people before. And he's like, "Hey,
It could be interesting if
I'd
that's
like
how
to have you heard the word of our Lord?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have them finish it like that. So, anything else you want to talk about with this episode?
No.
I think we did pretty good on this one. So let us know what you thought of our reaction, our review, and this episode overall of The Stand, episode 8, called The Stand. The Stand. In the comments down below, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Be nice in the comments, that's a requirement. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.